Man has always been intrigued by questions of creation. Where did we come from? How were we created? What about everything else around us? There are scientific considerations and religious ideas, with some people adamant that we were created one way and others just as sure it was actually a different way. Here we'll sort through some of the various ideas. Flipmill presents the 7 theories of creation. Number 1. Clay theory. First up, we have clay theory as explained by Glasgow University's organic chemist Alexander Graham Cairns-Smith. He believes that life's initial molecules may have formed on the surface of clay. He thinks that the clay's surface would have gathered up organic compounds and aided their organization into specific patterns in a similar way to how our genes work today. DNA is our body's information storage system, and it shows how molecules should be organized. The specific sequences within the DNA are instructions for how the amino acids and proteins need to be arranged. This clay theory determines that clay's mineral crystals put organic molecules into specific patterns, which then led to the molecules themselves starting to form the patterns. This is just one theory of creation. Stick around to find out some others. Number 2. Next, we have RNA theory. You've heard of DNA, right? Well, what about RNA? In order for DNA to be formed, it needs proteins and vice versa. Proteins need DNA in order to form. This raises a question a bit like the chicken and the egg. How can either one of them form first? The solution probably lies with RNA. RNA is able to collect up information in the same way that DNA does. It can also be used as an enzyme in the same way proteins can. It may also be able to form proteins in DNA, thus solving the chicken and egg conundrum. Due to DNA and proteins being so efficient, RNA was no longer needed once it had played its part in forming DNA and proteins. It does still have its place in the makeup of organisms, like working as a regulatory switch in some genes. We do still have to wonder about how RNA itself was formed. Scientists have decided that it just was. Although this is a bit of a long shot, RNA isn't the only thing discussed in terms of creation. PNA and TNA also have their place in the debate. Next up is panspermia theory. This is the idea that there is life all over the universe and that it is spread out through planetoids, asteroids, and meteoroids. The idea is based on the theory that life is able to survive space. Bacteria is able to remain dormant for long periods of time whilst it travels inside space debris. It then crashes into planets where, if the environment is such that it is possible, the bacteria can evolve there. Scientists have been using probes to investigate comets and have come up with the conclusion that it's most likely that space is where life began. And now we have biopoiesis theory. Amino acids have the capacity to form through chemical reactions that are not related to life, and all life is formed from amino acids. Experiments have taken place where the beginning of Earth is synthesized in a lab and biogenesis explored. Biogenesis looks at how organic molecules came into being in the first place. Amino acids are present in all living things and are organized into proteins. The proteins are dependent on nucleic acids, which are created in biochemical pathways caused by proteins. Biogenesis attempts to determine which of the molecules came first. We've generally all heard about the Big Bang Theory, right? As well as being a popular American TV show, the actual theory of the Big Bang has even made its way into science classrooms as one of the explanations for the beginning of life. Another theory of creation is the ekpyrotic theory. This idea is based on the premise that there is a parallel universe which sometimes intersects with our own. The energy from these intersections makes a massive disturbance in space, causing particles to form into gaseous nebulae, stars, and galaxies. Once they've intersected, the two universes move away from one another. Eventually, they start to come together again, and the process is repeated, and so on, and so on. Next up, we have the classically religious idea. Father Suarez is known to be an advocate of the special creation theory, according to which life began when it was created by a power outside of man, namely God. The Bible teaches us that the world was made in just 6 days. On day 1, God made heaven and earth, and on the next day he made the divide between the water and sky. On day 3 came vegetation, and on day 4 the sun and the moon were born. On day 5 came the birds and fish. Then on day 6 the land was populated with animals, along with the first man, who God named Adam. Later he created the first woman, who he named Eve. Hindu mythology teaches us that God Brahma created the world, making him the god of creation. Brahma's first man was Manu, and the first woman Shraddha. This theory cannot be evidenced, as it is based on the will of God, and so will never be accepted in the scientific community. And finally, the day-age theory. This theory links science and religion starting with the word day. Rather than thinking of a day as 24 hours, this theory takes a day to be an era of undetermined length. The theory stems from translating the Hebrew word day, linked to the day-age theory as progressive creationism. This theory suggests that after creating the animals and plants on day 6, God watches the evolution of his creations during the era that is the 6th day. This might seem like a happy union opinion for Christians who also buy into the scientific aspects of creation. However, there is no evidence in the Bible to support this theory. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button and like for more videos.